Hey, look at that.
Yeah, see, I fixed it for you.
Yes, you did. I'm clearly not the smartest guy in the room. So, yeah, welcome everybody to Killer Rico podcast. It's me and Josh, the most unlistened to, probably not, but,
But we've got more than one now.
yes, right. So, yeah, there's that. Um, so, yeah, dude, yeah, a bunch of shit I want to talk about. But first, it's like when I'm telling you about, like, so like the fixing those machines, I'm still curious,
Yeah. So for
like
example,
how do
like
you get like so okay, so you've got like there's all these games, and
yeah.
now they've got all their different logic. I mean, are they
Uh-huh.
all the same like platform? I mean, like how do
No.
you
You
so
just learn. You just have to learn each machine. And like most of them come with like user manuals, so you can kind of like troubleshoot through that and stuff like that.
you read that?
A lot of it's just being smarter than the machine, trying to think your way through out of a wet paper bag.
Right, but again, a lot of it is like, you've got some type of device, right? To like
Maybe.
troubleshoot the shit. I mean, how do
No, not
you
not usually.
okay,
So
machines broke.
let me give you my example, right?
Okay, please. Because this is
So we've got
fascinating to me.
we've got this game called Break the Plate, and it's like got three monitors basically, and it's all digital. And then you have real balls, and you throw it like you're breaking plates, right? And it simulates breaking a plate. Okay.
Right.
So for example, all the screens kept flickering off and on, and all these other things, and it's like, well, what's the problem with that? And it turns out that the LED control boards or the monitor control boards for each thing was the wrong one because they sent us with the wrong one. And so then we had to go and switch out all those boards. And then all of a sudden the problem's fixed. Right. But now
Right.
that same machine has like a little gate that like lets the balls come down so you can throw them.
Mhm.
But now the motor's busted. And so now you got to open, like, why is the motor busted? You got to figure out why the motor's busted. So then it opens the gate again. So it's just issues like that,
Oh my God. There's a lot of moving parts, literally.
Oh yeah. Oh, tons of moving parts. The sensors everywhere. It's a nightmare. But some
How
of them are super simple too. Like you open up the game and you're like, that's it. Like a lot of them are just a computer now. It's like, oh, there's my computer. Okay.
right. And if something goes wrong with them, I mean, you're swapping out motherboards and whatever. I don't know what they call them now or what they're using now
Yeah. So
for.
I mean, usually if it's something like the computer like that, they'll just send us a whole new computer. We just send that computer back and they send us a new one.
So basically, it's like, okay, you diagnose what's broken, you get the part, and then you put like out of order on the machine.
Yeah. So you put out of order until it's fixed. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
All right. So, yeah. So,
But anyways, so what I was going to say about that though is at this new job, I'm averaging anywhere from 15,000 to like 21,000 steps a night.
that's great.
So
I
yeah,
said I used to
good.
shit on walking until I realized like how like it really works. I was telling somebody now, like it's like yeah, I'm like just got to get my heart rate up, doing some other stuff, and that's fine. And it's just like as long as you get the mileage in, um, yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm calculating. I'm averaging like over 12,000 a day.
Nice. Well,
Yeah,
and you're using your
so
weight vest too, right?
yeah, for about 10,000 of it.
Yeah,
So yeah, and that's good.
that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm liking it. I said like it's been, then I'll get a quick lift and or hit stuff and do whatever, and it's done, and it works for me. So yeah, I'm gonna like document all this shit. Probably
Cool.
about beginning of July.
For your
So
next
yeah,
book.
we was. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that. I figure I just give this shit away. I'm like, you know, as I said, I'm like, so we're posting a lot on YouTube. We've got a new guy to kind of help us
Mhm.
do the shorts, and there's a technique to it that I'm figuring out. But it's just funny. Again, like the user comments. I did this one. It's like why you shouldn't do a double leg takedown in the street, and you know, most of the comments are obviously positive. And I just the people who are like, you know, you're a wrestler. I mean, they get all these fucking shit. And I'm like, I wasn't doing a demo on how to do a double leg takedown.
Not to mention you're how old and when were you wrestling, right?
Right. I'm like, and I said I vowed, over 20 years ago that I'm not shooting ever again. so so that's that. But it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
That skill's not
99.
perishable at all, though.
No, 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 not at all. Some guys like, well, I'll listen to Khabib. I'm like, bro, you're not Khabib. Like you're not. So the whole point of it is like, don't fucking do it. Don't do any leg attacks for self defense. It's fucking stupid. I'm like, yeah, you can take somebody down for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
But you're still both on the ground, and whether you're on top of him or underneath him, I mean, I show worst case scenario, guy sprawls and just buries your face into the dirt, and
Or you get a
you know,
real wicked guillotine put on you.
right, or just to get the back of your head smashed. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
just yeah, you're not going to take a shot and stand there, but you're driving yourself into the ground,
Yeah.
and if they got weight on you, even I would say 90, the majority of, I can't put a percentage to it because that's stupid, but in my experience, and I've probably done that technique conservatively 20,000 times in my life,
Yeah.
you know, between drilling and, actual doing it in, one of the hundreds of matches that I've had. So most of the times you wind up on the ground and finishing it on the mat. It's very rare. Like you'll see guys like demo it. You'll see some guys demo it and they just get in clean and just take
Mhm.
them down and nobody. I'm like, yeah, that's like if the dude you're fighting is totally asleep
Yeah.
and sucks. We call that fucking clinic shit. I mean, you
Yeah.
look at like, look at even Jordan Burroughs, his fucking double leg takedowns, basically a tackle,
Yeah.
where he's coming in and these guys. Oh, and by the way, he's Jordan Burroughs. Sorry about that. Um, so you're going to end up on the ground and have to
Yeah.
finish on the ground, which you don't want to be. Even in the best case scenario where you wind up on top of the person, you're still on the ground,
You're still on the
right?
ground. Yeah.
You still got his
Yeah.
buddies. He could still be armed. There's so much shit
Yeah. I
that
mean, if you're gonna do even a leg takedown, if you're like so dead set on it, the double leg is definitely not the best one for that
no,
situation, right?
you're going right into his core,
Yeah. And you're
right?
going to the ground because at a minimum, they're gonna grab you and you're just gonna fall with them.
Yes, you're going to the ground no matter what. Any leg attack, you're going to the goddamn ground. So, yeah, and this is where we don't want to be. You have zero mobility, right?
Yeah.
You've got, you could be armed and you could have friends. And plus, you're rolling around on the goddamn ground, which sucks in itself because it's
Yeah.
not a mat.
No.
It's like, I try to explain that, grappling is like the lowest form of self defense. It requires the most amount of skill, the most amount of energy, and it depends on the bigger and stronger this guy is, the less your toolbox is. I mean, everything shrinks to like a handful of things, and you can say like, yeah, okay, I can use a handful of things, sure, but there's so many easier things to do before you get to that fucking point. And that's kind of my point. Plus, we have like 30 seconds, 40 seconds to do these things. So
Yeah.
some people are expecting like a a full on like seminar.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, don't do this. Quick reason why. Done.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and they, again, they can't help themselves. But it's funny.
No,
I was like,
everybody, we talk about this all the time. Like people just love commenting for some reason.
yes, yes. Based on zero.
Based on
It's
zero.
like
Yeah.
they'll see it and they just want. Yeah, they just.
Or you get the guy who was like, I used it once successfully and everything was fine, so therefore it always works, right?
It always works. I'm like, you're missing. You're like, you're anecdotal. I mean, it's anecdotal, right? It's like, oh, this happened to me. Or it never happened to me. I'm like, yeah, but it happens to people, and
Right.
it can happen to you. So you're eliminating the possibility of it ever happening, and
Yeah.
it does. People like, it's like, why would you use this or why would you need this? I'm like, do you do any level of preparation or anything?
Yeah.
Probably based on your comment, probably not.
Yeah.
So And you
Well,
could go
and
through
then
this.
I was gonna say it even goes back to like, how did you even end up getting tackled in the first place,
Yeah, where did he come
or
from?
tackling somebody? You know,
I had
like
somebody say something where it was like, it was about a sucker. It was like the sucker punch. I'm like, there's no such thing. I'm like, some guy's like, guy ran up to me and punched me. I'm like, where did he come from? Right?
yeah.
A puff of smoke, magic? Did he like vaporize? Did he? I'm like, you're not paying attention if somebody gets
Yeah,
in
I
your
mean, it
personal
comes back
space
to
and
that
punches you.
knockout game that was popular like in
Right,
2011 to 2013, right? That time
right,
frame where people were like just walking around randomly knocking people out. But even
right.
then, like, like there was an airman when I was at language school who got his jaw broke that way at one of the local malls. And my
Oh,
first question was like, well, what was
yeah.
he like? Where was he? Why didn't he like, why wasn't he paying attention to his surroundings?
Yeah, right. I'm like, where did he come from? And he's sizing you up, even with even with the knockout game. You
Yeah.
can, if you're paying attention, they're looking at you. Okay, this is my guy. This is my guy. They're getting psyched up to do it.
Right.
It's
He's
not like
not paying attention, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
right, I can get close to him and I can
Hmm.
I can do this. So you know, just take accountability
Yeah.
for it. I mean, that's what sucks. I mean, yeah, is it wrong? Yes. No one should. It's not about right or wrong. No one should, come up to you and just hit you for zero reason, other than whatever joy, thrill they got freaking going on. But it's not about right or wrong. It's about what you can do, what your accountability level is, and how you can prevent this stuff by simply just paying attention and being a little skeptical and low grade paranoid when you're walking out in public. Now people are like, "Oh, yeah, Tim is right. Everything is either an interview or an ambush. 1,000%, 1,000% correct. They're either figuring out if they can, size you up and get what they want from you, or they're just gonna, pick an point of opportunity and take you. So, these people like walk around. It's like, well, living in fear or living. I'm like, it's just about being aware of what's around them. And you can choose not to do anything. That's a choice, but just be advised that you know it's only a matter of time. Probably, I mean, chances are your chances are elevated that you're targeted. Because you could go through this life clueless. Many, 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 many people do, and they're either not paying attention or nothing happens. But there's stories and news items every day that somebody
Yeah. I mean,
didn't
self
pay
defense isn't
attention.
for people that think nothing's ever going to happen to them.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And if you don't think anything's gonna happen to you, yeah, you're not us. Right.
Yeah.
And I thank you for your sacrifice because the more people that think that way, the more chances, that's where you're like, I always thank them for their
They
sacrifice.
were chosen as tribute.
Yeah. I'm like, because the people who are preparing and paying attention are a lot less likely to get targeted.
Yeah.
Period. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it is in what it was in me to not to get not get sucker punched or rolled or taken advantage of, or what led me down. It's like mainly because I think I didn't like the idea of having to fight, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. I
I
mean, it's
just
like I tell people all the time, people probably think like we grew up in like low crime areas. I don't know where you grew up in like super low crime areas and everything, but like people have heard on this show multiple times. I grew up in like the heart of Los Angeles, like gang country, right?
yeah,
And you know how many incidents I had?
right,
Zero,
right,
zero, right? Because I knew where to be, where not to be, and I was slightly paranoid, but it worked in my favor, right? I was always aware. I was always staring people down, and I
yeah,
had zero. Now I had plenty of friends who had tons of incidents, and my first question was always, well, where were you at what time? Blah 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 blah. Like of course that
right,
happened to you. Zero incidents.
right. I can't say that I had zero. We're always getting in some type of dust up. For the most part, it
Yep,
was,
I'm talking like getting jumped by like some crazy like uncontrollable situation. You know what I mean? I'm not talking
Yeah.
like you're going out with your friends and like doing
Right.
crazy things.
Right. Right.
I
I mean,
used to box my
yeah,
friends in the
beyond,
park and all kinds of stuff, right?
yeah, beyond the normal schoolyard stuff,
Yeah.
and barroom stuff. I said most of the times, things happened. Yeah, I don't know.
Even as a
I was like,
security guard, my things were limited because
yeah,
I could
even as a
diffuse most
bouncer
situations
and bodyguard,
just by being
that
aware.
was the
Yeah.
same. Yeah, I mean, and you can you can diffuse, to your point, most things just by, I mean, most things just by talking to people.
Yeah.
And I said it's like, the idea of, when we were, throwing somebody out of a bar, we were just asking, it was really as simple as, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Come
Right. You get them
outside.
outside. Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah, okay, thank you very much. Go home. I think we're gonna call it a night tonight. They go back in, and it's like you and two other guys, and they're like, no, sir, we're gonna end your night tonight. We'd
Yeah.
like you have you back. Here's your coat.
Right.
Should we call you a cab back? This is before Uber. Thank you very much. There's
Right.
no, again, when somebody like starts to get violent, which was very, very rare. Um, then it was just
Well,
like all three of us just grab them and just like sit
yeah.
down. Okay, we're calling the cops. And then when
Well,
they're like,
and it,
cops are coming, they go, no, no, I'm good. I'm like, okay, then get the fuck out.
yeah, it goes back to this de-escalation stuff I was looking at, and they made a really good point that like a piece of psychology that I've always thought was really interesting, and it's that very few people like so everybody's living their own story, right? And
Right.
very
They're
few
the main
people want to
character
be
in their movie.
right. And
Right.
very, very, very few people want to be the bad guy in their story. Almost everybody wants to be the good guy, the hero of their own story, right?
Right.
So if you give people the option and the opportunity to not be the bad person, they're probably going to take it.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's like, hey, okay, what's the problem here? It's just simple, as you're
Yeah.
doing this, just empathizing with somebody. It's like, hey, what's the problem? Okay, I understand. I go, but understand, like now it's like there's a potential for this. This is why we can't let you back in. This is why
Yeah.
you need to go now. We're cool with that. What you don't want to do is get into a pissing contest where you're challenging somebody's ego and manhood
Right.
and they lose face. As for me, you can call me whatever you want. I don't give a shit. I'm like, fuck you, faggot, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, no problem. Are we done here? What I
Right.
mean? That's just like, we get through it. I'm like, you feel better? I go, you're good. I go, I don't care because it's that person's opinion. Who the hell are they? Right?
Yeah.
As somebody who's an agent, it's like you don't have any, what they're right. Are you gay? Then fine. Then it wouldn't bother you. If somebody calls you a fag, if I'm gay, I'm
It's
like,
like
yeah, I am.
I tell people all the time, like you can't offend somebody offends themselves, right? You can't insult
Right,
somebody becomes insulted, right?
right.
You
Yeah,
know?
and the
And
whole
so I always
notion
tell
of
people,
being
yeah, I always tell people like you can't insult me, you can't offend me because like nothing you say matters.
yeah, the whole idea of being offended is insane. It's like, it's your ego. It's, yeah, I'm like, who cares? I'm like, if you're offended, I don't care. That the fact that people readily use that term and tell another human being that is incredible to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm offended. What the hell does that even mean? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm like, what? You didn't like the joke? You didn't like, all right, offended. Like that's like what just happened to you was an egregious, you know, it was just such a, it was criminal. But it's like
Yeah.
it's how you feel. I'm like, shut
Yeah.
up. If you don't like it, don't listen, go away.
Yeah. It's
You
like
know,
those
there's
people it's like those people who yell and scream like they're hurting me with their words. It's like,
right.
okay.
I mean, yeah. And how? How you feel? Can I take an X-ray? I'm like, and you're giving like weight to this complete stranger, and you're like, I gotta tell them something. You don't gotta tell them anything.
No.
There's nothing gonna say it's
Just
gonna convince them. What
just move
works
on.
is you not giving a shit
Yeah.
and being completely detached from the
Yeah.
situation. We're like, yeah, take the parking space. I don't care.
Do you know what else like what helps to breed that attitude? And I think you do. It's confidence, right? Having confidence in yourself to just be able to
Right.
walk away, right? Because now you
Yes.
don't have anything to prove. You're like, I'm already confident. What do I care? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's a great point. Now it's like I know where this could potentially go, and I don't want to do that. Don't force me to do that. So it's just a lot of, it's a lot of lawyers and paperwork and time,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
unless you're going to be boxing me in and forcing me to react, I just don't give a shit. I don't care.
Yeah. It comes back to like what we say all the time on this show is it's just not worth the consequences, jail time, death, whatever, right?
No,
It's just not worth it.
no. Yet you see people like, and that's what gets me like crazy. It's you see people with like zero experience or training or minimal, just like really so ready to be violent. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm looking at people, I'm looking at these people, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm
It's
like,
like the extreme
you have
form of
no,
defensiveness. Yeah.
yeah, you have no business like raising your hand. I'm like, dude, I'm like, if you can't do like a handful of push-ups, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Right?
Speaking
Yeah.
of, I don't know what it is now, but it used to be the requirement to get into the military was like 3 push-ups.
What?
Yeah.
How's that even possible?
Yeah, kids would be showing up to basic training and they'd be like, we're talking about like guys who like went to infantry or school, right? And they're like,
Right.
I got my 6 push-ups. And you're like, whoa, 6 push-ups. What? How
Six?
did how did you get here?
Holy crap, man. How do you get up out of bed? That's not even possible. When you
Right? Because
fall
I'm like,
down, when
yeah,
you
you like
fall
you do a
down,
push-up,
how
it's
long
like
does
what,
it take you to
70% of
get
your
up?
body weight? Like you can't even get back up.
Right. I'm like, you gotta like helps it get it. You're like a fucking NBA player. Like, hey, if I can put my hand up. It drives me fucking crazy. But those guys are like 8 feet tall, so I get that
Yeah,
they need
yeah.
help getting up. It's a lot of energy getting that shit up. But yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't that I don't understand. I thought I would see 3 pull-ups, to be a
Yeah, but pull-ups are harder, right? So the army doesn't do pull-ups unless it's like a special requirement, right? That's why the Marines do pull-ups though, because they're more difficult, right? Or like they do chin-ups technically, but yeah.
yeah, still. I said
Still,
like
it's
my
it's a more it's you're pulling your whole body weight essentially instead of only 70%,
yeah,
right?
my and this is where like, where public humiliation works. I was always a like a bigger kid when I was growing up. I wasn't fat, but as big bone.
Sure,
Oh,
sure.
right. So we used to have the presidential fitness test,
Yep.
and I maybe got like 1 pull-up, right? And I wanted that thing. So like that was like in 4th grade. So like then the whole year, my dad put the pull-up bar in the bathroom doorway, and then every time I went into the bathroom, I would do pull-ups. That
Yeah,
was
Tim,
it.
we did pull-ups at Benning. We just did it wasn't like part of the required like graduation requirement, right? It wasn't part of the
Right,
PT test and everything. Of
right,
course you
right,
did
right,
pull-ups, right? Airborne school,
right.
you did like a bazillion pull-ups everywhere you go.
Sure,
So,
right. So that was, and then the next year I think I did 12. You know, and that was like my like so pull-ups to me are like one of those things that I will always do because of that.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and
Yeah, I
as and
remember I
then
remember when you're doing the presidential fitness test, I was like, man, I'm gonna try and do really good this year. I was probably in like, I don't know, 3rd grade or some 4th grade. And I got probably like 5 or 6 pull-ups. Like I was feeling pretty good, for like like a 9-year-old, like that's a decent amount. Dude, there's this girl
yeah,
who was a gymnast there. They stopped
I'll
her at like
forget it.
45. They stopped her at like 45 pull-ups and they're like, just get off the bar.
45.
Yeah.
Holy Jesus.
And we were all like, well, okay.
Let her go. There's a record around here. I'm like, how old is she? I'm like, there's got to
Yeah.
be like 9-year-old girl pull-ups. It's
Yeah,
got
it
to
was
be,
crazy. It was crazy.
that's nuts, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought my 5 or 6 was pretty solid, but no.
Yeah, no. Then you're like, I'm gonna go punch her in the face.
No, I was like, dang, I'm not getting near her. She's gonna crush me.
That's true too. So like wrap up on your head, squeeze your.
You might have been like
squeeze
slightly on the big bone side. I was like rail thin as a kid.
Oh, oh man, it's funny. I try to explain to people. I'm like, yeah, I'm like the size I am now. This is pretty much me in like 8th grade.
Oh, that's pretty big for an 8th grader.
Dude, I was a big. Okay, so in reality, so I wrestled 148 my freshman year, which meant I was probably around 170 off season, and then 158. That would have been one. So yeah, I was about 185. Playing football my senior year, 190. So it's about the same size.
I couldn't put on weight. I graduated at 150 pounds.
Wow.
Everything. I would work out in the gym religiously, protein, everything. Yeah. Couldn't put on weight. My first year wrestled at 128. I never cut weight, but I never had to like even weigh in.
Right. Well, you weighed in, but you made weight.
Yeah.
Make that clear.
And then the next year I got to 132, and I pretty much stayed that until 150 when I was a senior.
It's so funny. Like there's like, guys who, are like my buddy Heath, who was like 101 as a freshman. I think he graduated at like 170.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah, now
it was crazy.
A million pounds.
Because I lifted all the time. I didn't look like I weighed 150 pounds. I looked like I was like 180s or whatever, right?
Well, especially if you have the chest, shoulders, and arms.
Yeah.
That's like, because you're scaling up to, visually, you look a lot bigger.
Yeah.
I was I was okay, but my legs and ass and calves was just very, very, very thick. Yeah, so I always people look at me, how much you weigh? And I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah, I look back at like my cross country team photo, and I'm like the biggest dude, like by far on the team.
I'm like, holy crap. They're basically like running with birds. That's fine. There's a guy at our Hall of Fame. He got Hall of Fame for cross country. He had a great comment. He was like, yeah, he goes, he's like, my sport is punishment in all other sports.
It's true.
I was like, dude, that's so fucking right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Chris Ray, dude. God bless you. Shout out, man. Yeah, dude. He was like, I'm sitting there like, oh my God, everyone take a lap, go run stairs, go do sprints, go do, it's like, no, what's your sport? What you're doing? You fucked up. I'm like, yeah.
Are you miserable? I do it for fun.
Right. What do you mean? There's an award at the end of this. I'm just doing this. Like, holy crap, man. We used to do like crazy shit. College, we did like a 5K holding a 45-pound plate.
Jeez. Yeah,
that was good. And then running stairs was a big thing.
Man, running stairs is so good.
It's fucking brutal. And then, buddy runs, run quarter mile, double leg takedown, fireman's carry, bear hug, it's like whatever you fucking, they thought of at the time just to break up.
Speaking of buddy carries, we were doing buddy carry runs in some training I was doing, and we just randomly paired up, and everybody tried to find people that are kind of close to their size, right? So I go up to this dude who's like my size, and he's like, how much do you weigh? And I tell him, and he's like, okay, I'm not going to tell you how much I weigh, just do your best. And I'm like, okay.
Oh no.
This dude picks me up like I weigh. This dude picks me up like I weigh nothing and goes like a mile.
By height. You went by height.
No, we were like structure. We were like the same size, right? And I'm like, okay, sure, it can't be that much bigger than me. He throws me over his shoulder like I weigh nothing, goes like a half a mile and then stops. He's like, okay, your turn. And I barely get this dude on my shoulders, and I stand up. My legs are like shaking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like barely going. I get like a quarter mile. I finally set him down. I'm like, holy crap, dude, how much do you weigh? He's like, I'm not telling you. We'll just keep going. He never did tell me, but it was a lot. I was like, how are you so heavy for how big you are? And he was like, I don't know, man.
Fucking dense, man.
He
Yeah,
was dense. Yeah.
yeah.
Easily
That's
in the
me. That's
200s.
my build is fucking dense.
Yeah.
Right? Like you'll say, oh, you don't have to pay. How much you weigh? Like 195, 200. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, man. It's just packed in like shit. That's what my dad. That's a my like he died. He was like goddamn. He was around my height, like close to 300 pounds. You know, I mean, we could just pack it in for sure on both sides. So my son
Yeah. Some
keeps himself
genetics are like
lean.
that. It's weird how
Yeah,
genetics are weird like that, you know?
right. I'm like, put it this way. I go efficiency wise. I'm like, you would be good because you can store fat. You know, I mean, think about it. It's like, all right, you know, if you have a fast metabolism, what good is that going to do you? You know, if you didn't catch it, you didn't get anything on the hunt,
Yeah.
right? You're like, oh man, I just burned through that crap. No, dude, you're gonna,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know,
from a survival perspective, one of my buddies who's a doctor, I was talking to him about it, and he was saying that on deployments, the people that would always get the sickest, fastest were the ones that were like super lean, like big muscle dudes, because they had no fat
yeah,
to like get through those calories, right?
right, yeah. I mean that makes sense. And plus, if you're very lean, I mean, granted, you know, there's easy people. You're not that lean, but if you're very lean, yeah, you're more susceptible to your immunity system. Your immune system's low because your body's grabbing shit from places it probably shouldn't grab shit. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is my un um this is my non-medical, no business in commenting opinion. So there's that.
Right. Right. Yeah. That makes sense,
Oh,
Tim. That makes sense.
yes, exactly. Tim said it's the same with altitude sickness. Yeah, I get that. Like, how high do you got to have to go to get altitude sickness?
It depends on the person.
I mean, just in general, right? I mean, obviously, like climbing Everest, but I mean, are we like,
I
you
think
know,
well, I think there's two conditions. And again, this is my non-medical Kabul.
Kabul, of course.
This is my non-medical background coming into play.
Yes,
But
of
I
course.
think there's two, right? It's the rate of descent, if you go really, really fast, can
Oh,
obviously do it.
like diving,
Yeah,
like
yeah, like diving, but
okay,
opposite, right? You're going up. Okay. So the
right,
rate the rate of ascent, I should say, the rate of ascent, if you go up really fast. And then also obviously how long you spend at higher altitude, your body takes to adapt, right? That's kind of my
right,
general thoughts on it.
huh, right. This is why, again, like you're thinking about like Kabul or Kabul. How do we pronounce that now? Kabul.
Kabul, I guess, yeah. I'd
Okay,
have to
yeah,
see it
because some
spelled in
people
Arabic or Farsi,
Kabul.
but yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ! So yes, of course. My. What am I thinking? So, yeah, hey, I was like, but you're thinking about like fighting in these areas where you have indigenous populations that's just like where they live,
Yeah.
right? And that could like be an extreme advantage. It's like it's like the Sherpas and like climbing Everest. Those dudes aren't on oxygen. It's
Yeah.
everyone else from the flatlanders that come up that need to be on
Right.
oxygen. I'm like, you're going up there. I'm like, that adds a whole nother level to how you prepare for that. Tim's
For
like, it's
sure.
over a mile high. We had guys dropping off in there. No, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
not
I
the
believe it.
combat, right? Yeah, the environment kicks the crap out of you. That's like when we're talking about that's part of the three things other than your target or your opponent, if you will, and the environment, right? These are the three factors that you have to contend with.
Yeah.
Most people are just like, oh, you're making these assumptions. They to completely ignore the environment with like technique and footwork and
Yeah.
all that. And you're
Well, I
like,
mean, from a historical perspective, like in warfare, right? Predominantly the casualties come from the environment, illness,
right,
weather,
yeah,
exposure, et cetera, right? It's not
yeah,
actually engaging
right,
with the enemy.
right, yeah. Getting how many people got like dysentery and like the Civil War or any of the
Yeah.
wars, right? I mean, especially like once they got out of areas like that they're not familiar with, like Vietnam and Korea.
Yeah. Like dysentery, scurvy, etc. The Kush. Yeah.
The Kush. What's the Kush? So the Kush
Tell us,
is a
Tim.
brutal land.
What's the Kush?
I don't. Yeah. Now you're jumping on the show, Tim. You should actually
We should just send him an invite real quick.
Right. I don't even know what the Kush is. Yeah, I know what Kush is.
Oh, the mountain chain. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right. Thank you for clarifying. So yeah, I'm like, I can only imagine. I'm like what's the SAS? What's that selection process? They do like an insane hike, right?
I'm sure they do. I don't know exactly what it is. Since they're British, I didn't look into it that much.
You didn't watch Rogue Warriors yet?
No.
Oh, dude, I know you don't watch anything, but it's actually really good. People watch it. I mean, one of the main characters, who's the founder, does a whole bit on close combat, and explaining it, like how he's like the neck and the throat or God's evil trick.
Yeah. You said that.
Yeah. So really, especially season 1. Season 2 gets more into the psychological, which I thought was good anyway. But most of the testosterone shit is definitely season 1, where they're just kind of like, okay, screw it, we're going to do our things, and they're doing all the guerrilla warfare stuff. And then they tried to put them to do like regular soldiering, which is, okay, here's the enemy, take the town kind of stuff. And, it wasn't a good fit. And then finally they go back. But a lot of it had to do with, dealing with PTSD and some of the other shit. And, which was fine. I liked it. But I get like, I still think that when they do stuff like that, they're injecting, modern day sentiment. I think most of these guys just did not give a shit. Like, guys can have, like, there's some people who have like, some people get punched in the face and not even care. Some people can get punched in the face and it completely like ruins their day, right? Like, you see guys get wounded or shot. Some of them are like, they get a scratch and they fall over. Others take like a shit ton of wounds, and they keep going, right? They keep charging. I think those guys are more like that. I think what happens, the problem with most movies, entertainment, is that they inject modern morals or morality into certain situations where it kind of doesn't.
Okay, on that note, can I just give a shout out to my least favorite movie of all time?
Go.
The Thin Red Line. That is my least favorite movie of all time. When that came out, I was appalled.
Okay, so explain why.
Because it's supposedly this war movie, right? And you literally
is that Vietnam or World War II?
That was Vietnam.
Right. Okay.
Or Korea. Right. I don't remember. I think it was Vietnam though.
I remember the movie. Is it George Clooney in it? And
I watched it once. Let me put it this way: I watched it once and made myself finish it just because I was like, I'm gonna finish it. Maybe it'll get better, and it never did. And I never ever have watched it again, and I never will.
No, I don't. It was a 1998 film. War Returns. Well, it's the second edition. 1962 novels.
So, anyways, the movie is this dude in the middle of combat thinking about home.
It's World War II. It's Guadalcanal. It's a Pacific Theater. Yes.
The entire thing, he is just reminiscing about home. So you're having like, he takes like one step and then it's like 20 minutes of him thinking about home. And then he takes another step and it's like 10 minutes of him thinking about home. That's the entire movie. It's supposed to be like this big philosophical, meta thing where it's like, soldiers are just humans and like they have desires and blah, 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 blah. And like war is atrocious, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Man, what a terrible movie.
Oh. Okay. I don't even remember watching it. I don't even think I did, to be honest with you.
You're not missing anything. I'm sure some psychologists, like I can see if you're like a psychology major dealing with PTSD or something, you might be like required watching.
So I
But for
did like.
everybody else who wants entertainment value, it's horrible.
So I know I mentioned this before. Warfare. It's a new movie that's out. That's really good. It just basically it's about one of the teams is like pinned down. It was based on a true story, and the guys who survived it, were technical advisors
Right.
on
Yeah,
it.
you were telling about that. Yeah.
So it was kind of in real time. I thought it was really good. Um,
There was one that came out, oh gosh, I want to say like maybe 8 or 9 years ago now. And I don't remember what it was called, but it was like some SEAL mission, and like a bunch of the dudes from the actual mission consulted on the film, and
right,
they kept being like, "Oh, we're gonna do this in the film," and they're like, "No, that's not how it's done. It's done like this." And they were like, "But that's not flashy enough," and they kept being like, "You want it to be realistic. This is how you do it."
right. So it wasn't like Lone Survivor or anything like that, was it?
No,
I
I don't
think that
think
was
so.
maybe too high profile. Yeah, yeah. There was another one.
I don't remember what it was. Yeah.
There's one that was like Mopic Charlie 48. I want to say. I want to look it up. Sorry, movie Mopic Charlie 48. Okay, 84 Charlie Mopic, Vietnam's hidden found footage. Um, it basically, it was about a camera crew going out with a recon team
Mm.
and in Vietnam. And what I did enjoy about it was that it was basically, from what's been told to me, because I obviously didn't serve in combat, it was like brutal boredom spiked with, insanity out of nowhere. So like the movie is just all these guys like, following them, they're talking, it's very fucking
I
boring.
don't
And
know
all of a
if you
sudden
froze for.
okay, am I good?
Yeah, you're good. Okay.
Okay. So it was these guys on patrol, very boring, talking shit, stuff like that. And all of a sudden, like an ambush out of nowhere, and people die. And then it goes back to nothing. Right. So yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I mean,
Of
I didn't
course,
deploy either, but from everybody that I know who has, it's pretty standard, is from what I've heard.
yeah. And then the other one was Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, because that's all like based on like commandos and crap like that. And Guy Ritchie did it. That was a new one. That was fun. Um, and then lastly, because I wanted to talk about this, the movie Northman. It's about the Vikings.
Northland? Okay.
Northman, Northman,
Northman,
Northman.
okay.
Yeah. Um, what's good is there's not a redeeming character in the entire fucking film. Like
Okay. How so?
it is just the brutality of the life. Like I'm a king. Okay, we lose the war. Now I'm a slave. And this is my
Oh,
life now. You know what I mean? It was like that kind of shit. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna save this. No. Oh, they died. Okay, next. And they actually toned it down. They did like a Viking king funeral. And what I didn't realize, was that not only do they like kill his best horse, they like rape and sacrifice like women and like put them in a boat and like burn everything. Like it's like freaking, it is brutal. And they actually toned it down for the movie, what would actually happen. I mean, it was just an insane, wonder why they only lasted like a couple 100 years, you know. You're like,
that reminds me of, I never saw it, but that reminds me of Apocalypto, the Mel Gibson film.
that was good. That was good. Not English at all in the whole movie. Like nothing. It was like, and I hand it to Mel Gibson because he makes these movies. Like, no, we're doing the original Aramaic. No, they're just we're doing no dialogue. Right, here are your lines. So it's like, there you go. Yeah, Apocalypto is good. That's worth another watch again. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard, because you're getting into like now, like because that's the other thing, we're like everyone's violence, like their perception of violence is calibrated through the movies, whether they like it or not.
Yeah,
I mean, people
movies,
are
video
like,
games, all those things, right?
yeah, they're like, oh, what if you get shot in the head? What if I'm like, you realize, I'm like, this is all highly unlikely. What if they imagine, like they create these scenarios. I'm like, this is not, this is the hardest part about all this stuff is that it's
Listen,
like,
in my mind, I'm the most badass ninja.
of course
I'm
you are.
like doing flips off the walls and
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
everything.
I am fucking John Wick, Jason
Yeah.
Bourne. That is it. In reality,
In reality, being able to separate my my
right,
fantasy me versus my real life
right.
me. That's the key, right?
I think it's just funny because you can tell, how somebody approaches or how somebody, comments, when they're like, well, what about this? I'm like, you heard of a guy. You know what I mean? It's like you're watching too many goddamn movies. You are listening to too much, it is just, you know, obvious. And, you just, dude, it's going to be, whatever it is, it's not going to go the way you plan. Just do something. Just do something, and
Yeah.
don't die doing something stupid.
Yeah.
Die doing something reasonable. Um, yeah. So yeah, man. What else you got going on?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I've got a lot of people interested in doing classes, but again, I'm
Okay.
having the same problem of getting people to like commit, right? Where the people,
Right.
everybody's like, yeah, I really want to do it. But it's like, how do I get people to convert from I really want to do it to now they're standing in a class and they've paid money?
I
That's my
would.
biggest struggle.
I would just say, so set a time, reserve a spot.
Yeah, I
Because you
used to
try
do that
to.
because then people were like, well, just whenever. And I'd be like, boom, here's the time. And then nobody would commit, nobody would show up. And then
Right.
I'm like, okay, what about this time? Nobody would commit, nobody would show up. And then I'm like, well, then you tell me what works for you,
Yeah. Maybe put the cart before the
Man.
horse. Like, okay, look, I'm setting up a class. This is how much it is. If you want to do it, good. Set your time later. Get them to commit financially, and then set a time up. They'll
Yeah.
say when. Well, it's like we're going to set that. I just want to get the class set. I don't know. Just trying to.
I've tried different things and I'm going to keep trying different things, but I didn't know if there
Of
was like a
course.
secret.
Well, just the secret is to get them to put their money in first.
Right. Right.
That once they do that, they're like, oh, well, I paid. I'm like, okay, dude,
Yeah. When
it's
somebody has skin in the
non-refundable.
game, then they're committed, right?
Yes, so it's easier to get them like, hey, man, here it is, reserve a spot, done. And try it that way, and then just be like, when is it? It's like soon. We're gonna have classes. Just like I'm gonna have classes every week. You'll be able to make one. Just reserve a spot for one, and then just get them because you're really trying to break their cycle of nonsense.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. I'm gonna
because
try that.
try it. I don't know, just throwing shit out there.
I mean, you're more
Because
successful than I am. So
dude, again, I don't even know what that means, but yeah, sure. We're all figuring this out
you,
together.
you, you have this self-defense company with, I mean, at least 1,000 people that I've purchased. I've taught like a few classes.
More than that, but yes, yes. So,
I'm still
but
in my
again,
infancy of figuring this out, which is why I'm glad that I
so
can talk to
so
people
it's
like
like
you.
so take that and just be like, look, dude, it's like, okay, I'm reserving a spot. Here, this is what it is. Here it is. Just here's your pay link. Do it. And that's it.
Okay.
Don't say when. It's like I'm doing shit every week. I just want to get people, a lot of people are saying it. So now I want to separate, literally just be like, I am separating the people who are talking and the people who are doing.
Ooh, I should do that. That's good.
See, that's
That's
how that
good.
happens because that just came out. Just like, yeah. So look, if you're just talking about it, fine. But if you're doing it, here you
We're
go.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna try that.
Okay. On that note, because I think that's a good place to end.
A little early,
yeah,
but
man.
it's fine.
I don't care. I'll keep going. So yeah, dude. So it's just really just trying to get and now when you're doing it, it puts them on a spot because it's like, look, I mean, I'm either gonna not ask you again, or we're gonna go work out.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we're gonna do this. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It's kind of that push, you know. So like have you ever heard of Dan Kennedy?
Of course, dude. That's why I
Okay.
started writing copy for
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
where I started
I
learning, of
feel like
course.
anybody who's like even semi attempted a business to be successful has heard of Dan Kennedy, right?
Right.
And I remember
Yes.
reading one of his books and man, it really stuck with me, right? So his whole thing was like, how do you get somebody to want to do it, right? And his whole thing was like he shared this experience, you probably remember it, where it was a blizzard, right? And he's like looking out his window and his neighbor is getting in his car and driving away in a blizzard. And he's like, what is possessing
What's
this dude?
possessing him to do that?
Yeah.
Right.
What's possessing this dude to go out in this kind of weather and go do that, right? He's like, that kind of thing is
Right.
what drives people to then commit, right?
Right.
And I've always tried to mimic that because that's the only way to do it. But obviously, I'm not that successful yet, so
I always like his. I
still
always like
figuring
his
it out.
analogy. I always like his analogy about timing. It's like, you know, it's like
Yeah, the time vampires.
or the I was, I was thinking about the marketing furniture. It's like, yeah, he's like, you know, you could send a guy a postcard every day, but until he like comes home and his wife is like cleaned out the house and all this furniture is gone, then all of a sudden it's like, you know, furniture 50% off, you know, and then it comes, I'm like, yeah. So, you know, when you're getting people who have had close calls or been assaulted or been scared, um, you know, that's, you know, there's a time and opportunity, especially if you're looking at like local news and local stuff like that, even just sharing it, just like, hey, I don't know if you guys saw this kind of thing,
Yeah,
you know, to kind of, you know, create that bit of you know, immediacy, because a lot of people, you know, a lot of people are like, look, it's like you get preoccupied, you know, you're like, you hedge your bet and, you know, you get busy and you're like, look, it's like we can, you know, you can spend your time walking on a treadmill or you can spend your time learning CQB. What's cooler?
right, right.
Right.
It's
So,
true.
you know, that's like, you know, what you're literally offering, you know. So
Yeah, I'm gonna keep that in mind.
on that note, all right.
And on that
So
note, hopefully next week I can tell you I got a class.
yeah, you will. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. So thank everybody for joining us. As always, a pleasure, Josh. Everybody, until next time, trade honestly.